Welcome back. Now that we've created the pipeline with the delete activity, let's now add the script activity. For this, first, we need a linked service to hold the connection information to this serverless SQL pool. We then need to add the script activity with the required SQL statements. Let's switch over to Synapse Studio and get started. Here we are in the Synapse Studio. Let's start by creating the link service. Let me go above to the Manage Hub, and within the Manage Hub we can see link services. And as we did before, I'm going to click on New to create the new link service, and it's listing all the services that are available, and let us search for Synapse. And as you can see here, the icon represents the Azure Synapse Analytics. We need to select that. We can pick this and change the endpoints. So that is pointing to the serverless SQL pool rather than the dedicated SQL pool. So that's what we are going to do. So let's pick this and click Continue, and let's give it a meaningful name. So I've given the name ls_serverless SQL pool db nyc taxi lw. And I've also given the database name because we are going to hard-coded the database name here. You can parameterize database names if you have multiple databases and you want to have only one link service. But in this case, we are just going to hard-code it. So I've just given the database name in the name of the link service itself. So it is obvious when you come to pick your linked service of which one you need, and similar to what we did before we released the default integration runtime. And as I said before, if you go with the Azure subscription and select your subscription, you can only pick the dedicated SQL pool here. But that's not what we want. So let's specify the endpoints manually. So click on the radio button here to enter the details manually. But now we need to specify the fully qualified domain name for our serverless SQL pool. Let me show you where to get it from. So I've got another tab there. I got the same Synapse Studio. So I'm going to go over to Manage and click on the SQL pools, and we've got the built-in pool here, and that is our serverless pool. If you click on that one, that will open up the properties that you see. The end point is that you can copy this, or if you have the connection string being selected as one of the SQL authentication, you can just grab the details from here. So what you need is from TCP onwards. So we are using the TCP protocol, and we want the endpoint here, which is the Learn Synapse Step-by-Step On-Demand SQL Azure Synapses.net, and then we want the port as well, which is 1433. So you need just this information starting from TCP up to 1433, which is the port. So let's copy that, and we're going to paste it here as the fully qualified domain name, and we need the database. So I'm going to use NYC, and let's go taxi_LDW. And now we need to specify the authentication type as we did before. We can specify the system on assigned managed identity, and that will give us the access because that's Synapse Administrator on this workspace. So that's everything we need to do. So let's click on Test Connection, and that should succeed, and that succeeded. And let's now click on Create, and the link service has been created. Let's click on Publish so the link service can be used. Let me click on Publish. Let's go to the pipeline and add the script activity. So we've got the delete activity here. Let me add the script activity. You can search here. So it's under the General tab. But I've just searched it up here, and I've got the script activity. Let me put it there, and you can connect that to activity. So what will happen is, if you just go from this screen to the activity here, it's only on successful execution of the delete activity, the script activity builder. So let me click on the script activity. Let's now give a name for our script activity. And I'm going to leave the rest of the details as default. And let's go over to Settings. We need the link service. We just created one, so we can pick that. And as we saw with the datasets, if you want to create a link service from here, you can click on the new button here and create it as well, and it gives you the same wizard to create the link services. So let me click Cancel that, and let me pick the link service, which is the LS Serverless SQL pool, and that gives you the options underneath here. And as you can see here, we can specify this script, but there are two options. One is query and the other one is non-query. So if your SQL is a select statement and it returns some results and you want to carry that forward, you use the query option, otherwise you use the non-query option. As you know, in our case, we've got the drop statement and then we've got this CDIS statement. So they're not select statements. So we can use the non-query option here, and this is where you paste your script. So now we need to specify the script that we want to execute. So let's go and copy the contents we need to put it there. So let's go to the Develop Hub. As you know, we've got the NYC Taxi folder under LDW. We've got the Create Silver Taxi Zone script. So the contents of this are what we want to execute. So I'm going to copy the first statement here and put that into the first script, and then I'll add another one. So let me put that in there with a semicolon, and then let me add on to the script. So once that is executed, we are going to execute another one. So that will be that the task statement said the drop happens first, and then we are going to do the CETAs. So let me write that down. So we got two scripts which are going to be executed one after the other, and that's what this activity is going to do. So that's everything. We've got no user properties, so that should be everything. You can click on the validate, and that will tell you if you had any validation errors. As you can see, it's been validated. And no errors found, so we are good to test it. So I'm going to click on the debug, and that should run both activities. So I'm going to click on debug. We can see here delete activity has now succeeded. And the execution of the script activities and now happening. Now, the pipeline has successfully completed. As you can see, both activities have succeeded. And let's have a look at the input and the output for this activity. So I can see here input for the script activity is the text here, which is our first statement to drop the external table. And then we've got the CETAs statement as well. So they are the two statements that's executed, and let's have a look at the output. And as you can see, it's giving you more details as well. So record the fact that 265, so it's created 265 records, and it took about 10 seconds to execute. In total, it's 12 seconds, but the script itself took 10 seconds to execute. So that's successfully completed. Now let's go over to the Data Hub and have a look at the data. So as you can see here, the Taxi Zone folder has just been created, and the Parquet file should be there as well because the CETAs statement has executed successfully. And if you go over to the workspace and the SQL database, we should be able to see the external table as well. So as you can see, we've got the silver taxis on table, which is that, and you can just execute them script to see whether the data is as expected as well. So we got the data as expected, and everything is successfully completed. Let me go over to the pipeline. And this is exactly what we designed and wanted to implement. We have implemented it now. And before we finish the session, let's click on Publish so that we can publish the changes. We don't want the SQL script because that was just a temporary select. So I'm going to just discard that change for SQL script. So this is what I wanted to demonstrate you in this session. See you in the next session.